All right. We are here once again with even some more tales from Castle Balderstone. Resuming. Let's get that pulled up here. I'll just skip to the castle map one last time. So, reviewing what we have done so far, we completed La Tavermilia, we completed Nivo the Dolphin, and we completed Visit Skuga Lake, which just leaves the single game in the Castle Balderstone series that I have played the least. I don't think I've done more than actually start it. I certainly don't remember making any decisions in Seeking for Me, so this is going to be completely new. So I'm pretty excited to do this and see what actually concludes the Even Some More Tales from Castle Balderstone experience, because I've never finished this game before. So, here we go. Let's see what Robert Silk has for us. Singing for Me by Robert Silk is being presented in the East Chapel, which is all the way the heck over there, so let's get moving. Would you like to hear a bit of history about the East Chapel? Sure. The East Chapel is where Laura Balderstone was supposed to marry Alexander Nightingale. I don't know who that is. He's this poet from Colorado who went missing in the 80s, and there were all these conspiracy theories about him. Anyway, the night before the wedding... Wait. Shut up. Did you see that guy? That guy? No, not that guy. I thought I saw... What are you talking about? Oh, don't worry about it. It's probably nothing. Is this you trying to be mysterious? No, forget about it. Hey, here's the chapel already. After you. Thanks. The atmosphere in the East Chapel is one not of reverence, but of impatience. No warm sun illumines the tall stained glass windows, only occasional flashes of lightning, casting the faces of saints and angels in ghastly white. The pews are packed not with the pious, but with the ghoulish. So packed with the ghoulish are these pews that you and I are forced to find a seat way at the back, which it feels like happens every single time we come out to one of these convocations. But this is just as well, dear guest, for from this distant vantage we are free to observe not only the author, but his unwitting victims, whilst remaining unobserved ourselves. Everyone in the back row can hear you. The people back here are my friends. Look, here is my good friend Colin. Hi, Ryan, Colin says, his enthusiasm mildly dampened by the grimness of our environs. He gives you a small nod. Hi. Your conversation with my good friend Colin is cut short as Robert Silk ascends the stage. The room goes quiet. Even the rain pounding on the windows seems to abate as Robert takes his place behind the podium. What an appropriately scary evening, he says, and we all chuckle in agreement. The story I'd like to share with you tonight takes place in a small town. What's the matter? I'm just tired of horror stories taking place in small towns is all. I feel like the idea of a supposedly idyllic... Robert is still talking. Oh yeah, we should be listening to him, I guess. Go home again, we have been told. But our protagonist will go home, expecting to find... He's not saying much of anything interesting, is he? Would you shut up? Geez, okay, I will shut up, as Robert finally opens a notebook and begins to read. Alright, so, as usual, I'm shrinking the window long enough to show our author portrait. About the author, Robert Silk is the author of Circus Night, Davy Cobb, and The Jesters. In 2019, he received the Ronald Fairhampton Prize for Paperback Literature. He lives in Connecticut with his wife Sarah and her cats. Robert Silk, Singing for Me. Wednesday, June 30th. Dear Diary, I found this blank notebook while I was moving into the cabin. Or should I say, I found you while I was moving into the cabin. No, I don't think I'll do that. I don't need to pretend I have a confidant. But it might be useful to keep a record of this new chapter in my life. I'm going to need a place to write down my finances at the very least. So far, I've just been unpacking and getting situated. I haven't had time to catch up with anyone in town. I didn't fully realize it until just now, but most people come home from college every so often, and they get to run into their high school friends and keep in touch at least a little bit. I didn't have any reason to visit, though, so it's been 4 years since I've been in Elysian or talked to anyone here. When I first got here a few days ago, the cabin seemed smaller than I remembered. Of course, I haven't been here since I was a little kid. But as I poked around, I kept finding cupboards and closets and little nooks that nobody ever told me about. I guess it's both smaller and bigger than I thought it was. Today, I finished weeding the plots out back, more or less. There's lots of room to plant lots of stuff. But right now, it's time for bed. Ryan Veeder presents Singing for Me, A Tale of a Small Town by Robert Silk. Release 1, serial number 221122. Inform 7, version 10.1.2. Vorpal version 3.2.5. Thursday, July 1st. Sunny. Before I could even get out of bed, I heard someone banging on the front door. I wasn't totally awake and ready to face the day, so maybe I wasn't in the best frame of mind, and I hadn't really talked to anyone for a few days. But even if I was well rested and awake and normal, I wouldn't have been prepared for an interaction with Darren Taylor, which is what I got. He wanted to welcome me back to town, and then talk for 8 or 12 hours about how he runs the general store now that his dad retired. Darren is exactly how I remember him from high school, with the freckles and the elbows and the complete lack of self-awareness or conversation skills. He would not stop talking. With him at the helm, that general store is doomed. He said he had seen the plots out back of the cabin. Why was he poking around back there? And had just the thing for them. Little baby strawberry plants, $15 each. I know that seems steep, he said. That's the price my dad put on them, and I'm trying so hard to follow his example. He went on about his dad for a few pages before he got back to the strawberries. You can definitely sell them for more than what they're grown. You can definitely sell them for more than that when they're grown. I know that, Darren. Eventually he left. I guess I could buy that strawberry plant today. I do have $180 to get me started. Or I could just explore the town. Or I could go on a hike in the woods or up the mountain. Let's try some conventional commands, because as I understand it, this is a kind of an unusual game where you basically make one decision a day. Let's go about. Singing for Me is Robert Silk's contribution to the 2021 proceedings at Castle Balderstone. Robert is indebted to everyone who provided feedback for this story, including Sarah Nerboso and Sarah Wilson. Examine me. Started staring at myself in the mirror. Started wondering if that guy really knows what he's doing. Decided to think about something else. Well, let's consider that investing early is likely to be a bigger payoff than investing later. So let's buy our strawberry plant today. Buy strawberry plant. I went down to the general store to get a look at these strawberry plants. Darren basically went into hysterics. He was so excited to see me. I wanted to turn around and leave, but I don't have the guts to be that rude. So I let him show me the starters and explain where he got them and what the best way to care for them is, and after the 4th or 5th time I said I wanted to take one home, he caved in and sold it to me. I got home and set up a little spot for the strawberries to grow in, and pretty soon the sun was going down. Darren talks so much. My funds currently stand at $165. Friday, July 2nd. Sunny. Took a little while to tend to the strawberry plant. Now let's try exploring the town. I finally went into town just to have a look around, but I guess someone, probably Darren, told them I was coming, because as soon as I set foot on the sidewalk, the mayor of Elysian himself was grabbing my hand and welcoming me back into the community. I said, "It's a pleasure to meet you, Mr. Mayor," and he said, "Please, call me Gareth," which was lucky because I couldn't remember his name at all. He gave me a tour, which was really just a walking speech about how much Elysian has brightened up since I graduated high school. He didn't point out anything specific, and from what I saw, it's the same exact town. But one street has been closed off to traffic to serve as a pedestrian mall sort of thing. Mayor Gareth didn't call it a pedestrian mall, he called it the market, like a permanent farmer's market setup. I'm doing a terrible job of describing this. Lots of folks visiting from out of town nowadays, he told me, looking for authentic small-town goods, fresh-picked strawberries, and that sort of thing. This is how I know Darren was talking to him. I took the liberty of drawing up a permit, so you can sell your wares here whenever you like, any day of the week, which is nice. But the more I think about it, loading up my wares, driving into town, setting up, tearing down, driving back, going to the market will take basically the entire day. So I'd better wait until I have a decent number of things to sell. In the meantime, I might want to try taking a look around the town, since I didn't really get a chance today. Saturday, July 3rd. Very Sunday. Darren came by this morning to tell me he got a copy of this encyclopedic guide to local mushrooms, now for sale at his shop for $39. I need one of those. Well, in that case, let's buy the guide. I inquired about the mushroom guide at Darren's general store, and of course Darren had to talk my ear off about H.R. Labonte, the author of Labonte's Mushroom Guide, who was actually a woman, if you can believe that. Yes, I can, Darren, and she stayed in Elysian for part of the time she was writing this guide, and the gracious citizenry of Elysian actually get a shout-out in the acknowledgments. I asked if I could see this for myself, which gave me a chance to grab the book out of Darren's hands and pay him for it before he could waste any more of my time. I have $126 to spend now. Sunday, July 4th. Okay, yeah, for some reason I thought it was already Sunday, but I'm just misreading. Sunny. Watered the strawberry plant, made sure everything is happy back there. I'm already seeing some little baby strawberries. Let's read the guide. I tried reading Labonte's Mushroom Guide straight through, but it was too much of an information overload. I can't memorize that many mushrooms. Well, in that case, let's explore town again. I tried taking a walk through the town again today, and this time no politicians accosted me. I just ambled up and down the streets. Elysian is so tiny, I had to amble a few of them more than once, and lost track of time. At some point, I realized I was staring into the window of an art gallery at a painting of... I forget what. The owner came out to chat. A very friendly lady, I guess 60 years old, with long hair and big dragonfly earrings. Mackenzie. The idea of the gallery is to promote local artists, but a fair number of the paintings for sale are her own. She said her medium was encaustic, and she tried to explain what that was, but I'm pretty sure I misunderstood something, because what little I can remember of her explanation does not make sense. She asked me if I was an artist, and I said not really, and she seemed a little disappointed. I guess she really would prefer to have a wider variety of material in her gallery. Well, maybe I'll find a reason to go back. I just realized, in all my ambling, I didn't see Tony's ice cream shop. I need to keep an eye out for that next time I'm wandering around town. Monday, July 5th. Sunny. Darren showed up again to announce that he has tomato plants for $30 each. Then he started talking about all the stuff you can cook with tomatoes. Well, I guess that means I should buy a tomato plant. I went over to Darren's to buy a tomato plant. As I was standing at the cash register and Darren was about to launch into a detailed history of tomatoes, another customer came in with a question about light bulbs. Darren said, "I'll be right with you, sir," and I breathed a sigh of relief, since this meant Darren would have to finish my transaction in a matter of seconds rather than hours. Except what Darren actually did was walk out from behind the counter and start explaining light bulbs to the other guy while I stood there squeezing my wallet so hard that it started to melt in my hands. It didn't really melt in my hands. The other guy left without buying anything, and then Darren came back to me and I paid him and left as abruptly as I could. I'm not usually rude to his face, but in that moment I couldn't keep up the facade. The tomatoes are all set up. Darren included a little trellis thing with them for the vines to hang on. That was nice of him. I have $96 now. Tuesday, July 26th. Kind of cloudy. Darren knocked on the door again. He has a pickaxe for sale, $30. I guess that could be useful for cutting up rocks and stuff. Well, I guess we're going to go ahead and buy that. I went down to Darren's general store to buy that pickaxe. Before he would let me touch it, Darren had to give me this whole story about its previous owner, a real treasure hunter from up north. He said he was sworn to secrecy about the guy's name, but he had a bunch of infuriatingly interesting details that he kept remembering, one by one, as slowly as possible, because he knew he had me on the hook. Exhausting. I have $66 to spend now. Wednesday, July 7th. Partly cloudy. Darren showed up uninvited again. This is the third day in a row. And he didn't even have anything to sell me. He just wanted to tell me this dumb story. He used to go for a walk in the woods every day. And he got bored with it. The same woods over and over. So he tried something new. He went for a walk through town instead. And he discovered so many exciting new things. Wow. And then, when he went for his walk in the woods again, he noticed things he hadn't noticed before, because it was fresh and new for him. So Darren's big advice for me is try going for walks in different places. So today, we're going to try walking in the woods, since we haven't done that yet. I decided I'd just wander through the woods a while to relax. I was always too scared to go very deep in the woods when I was a kid, and my friends were never interested. But since I've been away, I've done much scarier things. I guess I'm a lot cooler now that I'm a college graduate. It was relaxing. I was all alone, and there was this buzzing, droning noise all around. I don't know what kind of bugs it was. It almost put me to sleep. I wanted to go on walking with my eyes closed. Or maybe my eyes were closed for a while, because suddenly this old cabin appeared out of nowhere. It was all black wood covered with moss. Lichen? And the weeds were growing right up to the door. And then the door opened. I nearly fell over. I thought a swamp witch was going to swoop out and slurp me up. But it was just a normal guy. He put me at ease pretty quick and asked me to come in. His name is Owen. White hair, mustache, nicer clothes than you'd expect from a guy living out in the woods. He reminded me of Professor Maury. He does that thing where he gets you talking about yourself and doesn't consider his own life very interesting at all. I specifically asked him why he's living out here in the woods, but all he said was... I forget what he said. He did say I could stop by any time, and I think he meant it. So I'll head back to Owen's cabin the next time I feel like it. Thursday, July 8th. Sunny. Darren appeared at an inopportune moment to announce that he's selling a very handsome antique rug that would look lovely in my cabin. The $55. The infuriating part is, I was just thinking about how I needed a rug. Those strawberries should be ready to pick in a few days. We're going to put that off. I want to walk in mountains. I guess it was a good thing I headed up to the mountain today. I had never spent much time up there as a kid, so I was just wandering around randomly, trying not to fall off anything and break my neck. Then I heard something moving around. I yelled out, "Hello?" even though at that moment I was pretty sure it was a mountain lion, and an echoey voice called back, "Just a minute," which I thought was strange, so I yelled, "What?" And the voice said, "Sorry, I'm not sure where I am." I followed the voice to the mouth of a cave. I did not know we had caves. I said, Are you in the cave? The voice said, Yes, I think so. I didn't have a flashlight, but I went in there anyway. I figured whoever I was rescuing couldn't have wandered that deep inside. But I was wrong. She was way the heck down in there. I was only able to find her because she had a little book lamp with her. I ended up turning the light around so we could see each other, and then everything made sense. It was Lucia, from school. She said she didn't remember how she ended up so far underground, but when Lucia gets really deep into a book, she has no idea where she is or what's going on in the outside world. It was ever thus. She looks kind of different, though. I got a better look at her once we reached the surface. She seems taller, and she found a pair of glasses that fits her face. She thanked me for my assistance, opened her book, and started walking back home. When I got to the cabin, I rummaged through drawers until I found a decent flashlight, so now I can check out those caves whenever I want. Friday, July 9th. Sunny. Took care of the tomato plant and the strawberry plant, first of all. Let's try examining them. Examine strawberries. The strawberries are getting to be pretty big, pretty red. Pretty soon it'll be time to pick them. I examine the tomatoes. The tomato plant is growing like crazy. No tomatoes yet, though. The plots. Right now, I have a tomato plant and a strawberry plant set up in the plots out back. Shack. I can't examine the shack. Look. Let's see. What places are there to check out? The caves, Owen's cabin, the gallery, the market, the general store, the mountain, the forest, the town. And the people I know around here are Lucia, Owen, Mackenzie, Gareth, Darren, which is a decent number of people, actually. Can we examine... I don't know if this is going to use up the day or just let me see it. I'm going to examine the gallery. I like Mackenzie's gallery quite a bit. It's very sleek and chic compared to the rest of the town. Apparently it's not open Mondays or Tuesdays. I have to keep that in mind if I try to sell Mackenzie any art supplies, or any art. Owen's cabin? Owen's cabin is a lot more, shall we say, rugged than mine. It looks like it was built in 1910 and abandoned in 1925, but he's made the most of it, and on the inside it's very comfortable. He knows what he's doing. Examine the caves. The caves are empty. Okay, fair enough. Let's examine the market. The Ped Mall Farmers Market does look like a pretty hip little block of shops. I'm only apprehensive about going there because Gareth, and by extension Darren, was so insistent about it. The store? I'm dreading going to the general store because I know Darren will be there. If I understand correctly, the stuff that I care about he has for sale at the moment is a rug for $55. Inventory? I have, in the plot out back, a tomato plant, a strawberry plant, and various assets. $66, Labonte's mushroom guide, and a pickaxe. Let's examine the mountain. I can actually see the slope of Mount Vespasian from my window as I'm writing this. I think it might not technically be a mountain. I remember people arguing about that in middle school. It's comforting, though. It's always there. I think people who live in places where it's really flat, like South Dakota or Oklahoma or whatever, they don't have the same sort of connection to the earth that mountain-adjacent people have. Here, the earth is always watching us. Let's examine the forest. The woods outside Essen have kind of a spooky reputation, but all forests do. Even the strip of forest between the university campus and the highway was supposed to be haunted by doomed lovers, or insane sorority girls, or huge spectral bears. The woodland legends in Essen aren't as specific. Let's examine the town. The little burg of Essen seems basically the same as when I left it. But I've heard that's not possible. Everything changes. That's one of the things you learn at college. So I guess I should be suspicious. Let's examine this pickaxe. I really like my pickaxe. The guy who owned it before me took good care of it. I examined the guide. Labant's Mushroom Guide is an old paperback with hand-drawn illustrations. Some of the pages are dog-eared, the ones about the mushrooms that can kill you. Let's try examining the people we know around town. Lucia is cuter than I remember. I can write that in my diary without getting in trouble. The way she gets so focused on whatever she's studying is kind of adorable, but it's also kind of, I don't know how to put it, intense, but not in a bad way. I examine Owen. Owen really does remind me of Professor Mori. Mori had this idea that silence was very important to learning. When the students started arguing in one of his seminars, he'd force us to be silent for a full minute so we could reflect on what everyone was saying. When he let us start talking again, we all understood each other a lot better. A few people thought this was a waste of class time, so they dropped out. Owen seems to value silence in much the same way. Mackenzie, Gareth, and Darren. Ladies of Mackenzie's generation never have long hair, but she does. She has the arcane, sphinxly vibe of a true art gallery owner. But I don't think a true art gallery owner makes a lot of money, whereas I'm pretty sure Mackenzie makes plenty. She must have been a mystical starving artist for so long that she couldn't help but become successful. I examined Gareth. Gareth What's-His-Name was the mayor before I left for college, and I guess he's been the mayor ever since. There's not enough politics in Essen to make a contested election worth the trouble. As far as I can tell, there's barely enough going on in Essen to make having a mayor worth the trouble. I don't remember him ever actually doing anything. And our favorite, let's examine Darren. I will take a moment to think about Darren Taylor. He's just annoying. That's his only problem. He's weird looking, but who cares? I'm weird looking, and... Well, now I'm thinking about myself in terms of Darren, which can't be good. I will change my train of thought. Well, now that we've given all of this consideration, I'm wondering if they won't have something new for sale unless I buy the rug. So let's buy the rug. I went to the general store to buy that rug. I didn't realize how huge it was. I couldn't carry it home myself, so Darren had to transport it in his truck, which means I had to ride shotgun with Darren, which means I got to hear Darren go on about how nice all the trees looked. I think he drove slow on purpose, just so he could say more about trees. But the rug looks great. I have $11 now. Saturday, July 10th. Sunny. Darren appeared right when I was in the middle of something, and loudly let me know that he's now selling watercolor painting sets. $16. Wow! I told him I was busy a few times, and eventually he left. The little yellow flowers on the tomato plant are turning into little green fruits. Let's explore town once more. I went back into town to look for Tony's ice cream shop. It's not there anymore. It's an empty storefront. I stood there stupidly for a while. I guess I didn't think something like that could go away. When you're a kid, things seem so chaotic, and you build your understanding of the world on the things that you can rely on. And when you can rely on something to make you happy... I'm being stupid. A lady came out of the bakery across the street to talk to me. Maybe she's seen this kind of thing before. She told me Tony's gone on to greener pastures, and she took me inside for a couple of eclairs. Just one eclair is fine on a normal day, she said, and when you get some bad news, 2 eclairs is okay. Her name is Joan. She's definitely somebody's mom. I mean, I could tell she was somebody's mom before she started talking about how she has a daughter my age, and how I wouldn't believe some of the stuff she gets up to, and just the other day... She kept on talking to distract me. I must have seemed really upset, I guess. It was a cute bakery. I might go back there sometime. Sunday, July 11th. Very sunny. Darren appeared again, but I won't let that ruin my day. He said he has raspberry starters now, $18. That's intriguing. And I do have room out back. I saw the strawberries were ripe, so I picked them. I took good care of them, so there's a pretty good amount. Too much for a little basket, not quite enough to fill a larger crate. But the larger crate was all I had, so that's what I put them in. I guess I should sell the strawberries at market. These strawberries look great. I need to sell them as soon as I can. So that's what we're going to do. I have to make sure to bring the crate of strawberries the next time I go to the market. Take strawberries. I have the crate of strawberries handy whenever I need it. Go to market. I'm going to the market today. I just have to decide what I'm bringing first. Should I try to sell the crate of strawberries? Yes. I'm just going to write it all down again to make sure. I'm taking the crate of strawberries, right? Yes. Wish me luck. I'm back, diary. Here's what happened. I sold the strawberries for $54. There was a little bit of a race to be the one to buy them. Made me wish I had more crates. So now I have $65. What a long day. Monday, July 12th. Sunny. Took a little while to tend to the tomato plant. We're going to buy the raspberry starters. I tried to get in and out of Darren's shop really fast, but of course this could never happen. He cornered me while I was picking out a raspberry plant and gave me another one of his breathless lectures. After, at long last, the transaction was complete, he offered to help transporting everything up to the cabin, or even help me plant everything. But I said, no thanks. I went home by myself and did everything myself. And now it's late and my head hurts. Now I have $47 to spend. That was the entire day. Tuesday, July 13th. Kind of cloudy. Darren swung by carrying a very big, very creepy scarecrow. This is just an example, he said, but I'm selling them for $28 down at the shop. I told him it looked awesome. I thought that would make him leave faster. He did stick around for a while, but maybe not as long as he would have, so I don't know. Maybe let's buy a scarecrow? Kind of Tuesday, July. Okay, buy scarecrow. I went down to Darren's shop and shelled out for a scarecrow. He got very excited. Which one were you thinking? He asked. He had a bunch of different designs. He made the scarecrows himself. They were all way too creepy for me, but I was already on the hook, so I picked one out at random. Darren offered to drive me back up to the cabin, but I refused. Sharing the truck with Darren and the scarecrow was an idea I couldn't handle. But that meant I had to carry the nightmare totem all the way home, which took forever. Now I have $19. Wednesday, July 14th. Sunny. Had to fix things up a little out back to make sure the raspberry plant and the tomato plant were all growing up nicely. I should buy the watercolors. I ventured into the general store and tried to buy those watercolors in a timely fashion. No such luck. Darren thought he had to give me a series of lectures on what painting is really about and what all the best places to paint en plein air are. You're not going to impress me with French, Darren. I went to college. My funds currently stand at $3. Thursday, July 15th. Sunny. Took care of the raspberry plant and the tomato plant, first of all. The raspberries have shown their first little fruits. I've been watering those tomatoes like crazy, and they're starting to turn yellow. Pretty soon. Let's examine the watercolors. It's actually a pretty cool set of watercolors. There's brushes and tubes and some thick paper, and a little card that explains how to mix colors. I just need to decide what to paint. Let's walk in the mountains. I tried the mountain again today, steering clear of the caves. I'm a little intimidated by the idea of climbing to the top, so I took a horizontal approach. I climbed around the mountain to see if there's anything cool on the other side. This turned out to be probably just as difficult, and I got lost again. But someone saw me stumbling around and rescued me. It was Reagan. Regan was always really fit, but I'd only ever seen her in normal school clothes. It was something else entirely for her to appear out of nowhere in skin-tight hiking gear, especially when I was just starting to worry about starving to death. It was like a Valkyrie had come to bear my body up off the battlefield. She was really excited to see me, and despite her hiking acumen, she overlooked how I, an idiot of hiking, had gotten myself so hopelessly lost. We caught up a little as she led me back to the trail. There was a trail all along, I just didn't know about it. And then she led me along to, not exactly the opposite side of the mountain, but to the cool thing I didn't know I was looking for. It's a ghost town. Regan called it the Old Village. I've been trying to piece together what this place was, who lived here, why they left, she said. I couldn't find any records. The only evidence I have is what I've dug up myself. I was impressed, but I wanted to look cool, so I said, Regan, I didn't know you were a nerd. She punched me in the arm, so now I know we're still friends. We had to turn right around to get back to town before dark. I told her about the caves, and she said she's been doing some research there, too. If I ever need to find her, that's where she spends most of her time, she said. The caves and the Old Village. Friday, July 16th. Very sunny. Darren showed up, all excited, raving about how there's a used bicycle at the general store now, and it could be mine for $150. I get around fine without a bike, but it could save me some time. Let's try going to the caves, since we've just gotten a referral to them. I went back down into the caves this afternoon. I took my pickaxe and flashlight and everything I needed for mining in the caves. All that kit was really heavy, but it was worth it. I found a big cluster of shiny green stuff. Malachite, I'm pretty sure. I extracted it expertly, kind of, and carefully brought it home in one piece. Saturday, July 17th. Very sunny. Took a little while to tend the raspberry plant and the tomato plant. Now let's try the ghost town. I took Regan's route out to the old village. I didn't see Regan on the way there, though. The village is eerie. The buildings are all basically intact, but they're covered in peeling paint and creeping rust. The streets are overgrown with weeds. And it's completely quiet, except for your footsteps, but you feel like at any second someone will come stalking around a corner, a faceless shade of the past. So I kinda hurried down the main avenue, not looking too closely down any of the side streets, and I found something strange. At the edge of the woods, there was a fenced-off area, maybe the size of a football field. I think the fence only covered 3 sides of the field. It was open on the forest side. Now that I'm reading this, I guess it's more unusual than really strange, but my walk through the village had me sort of on edge. I was trying to figure out what I was looking at when Regan came up behind me. I almost jumped out of my skin, but she just said, kind of solemnly, "These are the festival grounds. We still use them once in a while." I definitely don't remember anything like that, but I didn't have the presence of mind to say so. She remarked that it would be getting dark soon, and we accompanied each other back to civilization. As I reflect on it, I think I know how I could cut through the woods to get to the festival grounds again, if I ever had any reason to go back there. Sunday, July 18th. Sunny. Had to fix things up a little out back and make sure the raspberry plant and the tomato plant were all growing up nicely. Let's try walking in the caves once more, because I kind of want to see if I have more things we can sell. Or maybe I should go to the forest for the mushrooms. Let's try the forest first. I went for another walk in the woods, and now I feel completely relaxed. I actually fell asleep sitting leaned up against a tree like in a painting or something. I think I had a dream, too. It was so odd. I was standing on the edge of a huge pit. But this isn't a dream journal. On my way back, I found a little gully full of pale bluish flowers. They were beautiful. I'd never seen flowers like that before. So maybe it wasn't very wise to pick them all with my bare hands, since I had no idea what they were. But I had my bag with me, so I was able to carry a huge bunch of them home with me. I put them in water and found space for them in the fridge, so they shouldn't wilt right away, but I should figure out what I'm doing with them sooner rather than later. Monday, July 19th. Sunny. Darren showed up bright and early with a friendly reminder, I hate myself for writing those words in ink, that the Delphinium Promenade is this Friday night. I dimly remember this from when I was a kid. I guess I should check it out. I assume someone other than Darren will be there. I determined that it was time to pick the tomatoes, and I filled a big crate with them. They're so plump and juicy, they look like a bunch of water balloons. I guess we're going to the market. Go to market. I'm going to the market today. I just have to decide what I'm bringing first. Should I try to sell the crate of tomatoes? Yes. Should I try to sell the bunch of blue wildflowers? Yes. Should I try to sell the malachite? Yes. I'm just going to write it all down again to make sure. I'm taking the crate of tomatoes, the bunch of blue wildflowers, and the malachite, right? Yes. Wish me luck. I'm back, diary. Here's what happened. I sold my crate of tomatoes for $58. The lady said she was going to make salsa with her kids. Have fun, lady. Have fun, kids. A nice lady bought the blue wildflowers for $39. She thanked me profusely, said she needed them for her daughter's wedding. She seemed very pleased. Everyone said the malachite was gorgeous, but nobody could afford it. Then this frizzy-haired lady bought it for $73. I made $170, so now I have $173. I'm worn out. Tuesday, July 20th. Sunny. Darren showed up again to say he has pumpkins. Pumpkin starters. I don't know anything about pumpkins. Is $22 a good price for a pumpkin plant? The raspberries should be ready to pick in a few days, I think. Okay. I'm not sure about the order of operations here. I want to buy both the pumpkins and the bicycle. I assume I want the pumpkins going sooner rather than later. And I don't know buying the bicycle first is going to save me enough time on the back end to justify doing that before the pumpkins. So let's do it in that order. It's Tuesday. Let's buy pumpkins today. I went into Darren's shop and let him explain the pumpkins to me, how to plant them, how to tend them, on and on and on. It was hard, but I paid attention to the best I could, so I would stand a chance of actually growing some decent pumpkins. Or a decent pumpkin. I don't know how many I'm supposed to get off of this vine. I swear I paid attention. I have $151 now. Wednesday, July 21st. Kind of cloudy. Took care of the pumpkin plant and the raspberry plant first of all. Let's examine the store. Okay, let's do it. We'll be at $1, but buy bicycle. I went down to the shop to buy Darren's used bicycle. He had a lot to say about the guy who used to own the bike, but not about the bike itself. Now I see why. It's a lemon. It's broken in 3 different places that I can see, and I'm not a bike mechanic, so I have no idea what else is broken, and I can't fix the parts that I know about. I don't like to write this stuff like this down, but I can't do anything else about it. I hate Darren. Now I have $1. Oof. Well, this is a catastrophe, but I don't know what else to do. Thursday, July 22nd, sunny. Had to fix things up a little out back and make sure the pumpkin plant and the raspberry plant were all growing up nicely. Let's walk in the caves to hopefully get something to sell. Went on a little excursion into those creepy caves. With pickaxe in hand, I scoured the cave for precious gems, and I found a good-sized rose quartz. Not amazing, but not bad. Friday, July 23rd. Very sunny. Today's the Delphinium Promenade. I guess I'm obligated to go if I'm a good citizen. I kind of wish I could get it over with, but there's the whole main part of the day between now and then. I guess let's try walking in the ghost town first. I followed the trail to the old village today and had another look around. I ran into Regan, who was doing some more of her research. We chatted for a while about what she'd turned up. While poking around the ghost town, I found something mysterious. A wooden box. It's locked. I assume the key is long gone, or maybe it's somewhere else in the old village. Or I guess I could smash the box open. And now I'm headed out to the Delphinium Promenade. It's 1 a.m. I'm not sure how I got home. I had to park outside of town. All the streets were blocked off. I followed a group of strangers toward Main Street. The scent was unbelievable. It was beautiful at first. Then you turned a corner and you saw more flowers than you've ever seen. I guess they were all delphiniums? I don't know. My head was full of the perfume. Everyone walked down the street, down this path between the displays. It was still light out, and bees and butterflies were all over the place, tickling your nose, swarming over the street. I don't know what we were walking towards. I just followed the people in front of me. The smell was... I woke up sitting on my porch with my keys in my lap. It was dark. Someone must have driven me home. Saturday, July 24th. Sunny. Guess who showed up this morning? Extremely early and loudly. He wanted to lovingly describe the rocking chair that he has for sale now in the shop. It's $250 for this gorgeous rocking chair. My gut told me it was time to pick those raspberries. This is easier written than done, of course. They tend to pop while you're picking them. You have to be very gentle. So that's what I did. And also I ate several of them. But now I have a fairly respectable basket of fresh raspberries. So, to market we go. I'm going to the market today. I just have to decide what I'm bringing first. Should I try to sell the basket of raspberries? Yes. Should I try to sell the wooden box? Ooh, mysterious. But no, I want to keep the wooden box. Should I try to sell the rose quartz? Yes. Should I try to sell the bicycle? Yes. I'm just going to write it all down again to make sure. I'm taking the basket of raspberries, the bicycle, and the rose quartz, right? Yes. Wish me luck. I'm back, diary. Here's what happened. I sold the raspberries for $36. Pretty good. Pretty good. I sold the broken bike for $70. I can't feel too bad about ripping off the guy who bought it, because I'm still even more ripped off than that guy is. The rose quartz sold for $16. I made $122, so now I have $123. Exhausting. Sunday, July 25th. Sunny. Took a little while to tend to the pumpkin plant. Let's look. We've got the festival grounds, the old village, the bakery, the caves, Owen's cabin, the gallery, the market, the general store, the mountain, the forest, and the town. Let's examine the general store, which just has the rocking chair. Let's let's examine the festival grounds. The festival grounds are empty. Let's go to Owen's cabin. I went to visit Owen. We had a nice chat. He asked about college, and I told him some of the less embarrassing parts. I got started talking about last semester's philosophy seminar, and I was struck again by how similar Owen is to Professor Maury, but I didn't tell him that. He asked about my family, and I gave him sort of a non-answer, and I feel bad about that now. Then we talked about life in Alençon and on the outskirts of Alençon, and he said that he lives fairly comfortably on the stuff he scrounges up while walking through the forest. He's a true hermit, except he does go into town every once in a while. If he asks again about my family, I should be more forthright about it, but he's probably too polite to ask again. Monday, July 26th. Very sunny. Watered the pumpkin plant, made sure everything is happy back there. I think we should prioritize going to the mountains first, the caves first, because minerals will not worsen with time, whereas things that we pick up in the forest or in our garden likely will. So I think that's the order in which to prioritize these things. Let's go back to the caves. Explored the caves some more. Didn't find anything interesting to take home today. Oh, dang. Tuesday, July 27th, sunny. Let's undo. Wait. Darren came by not to tell me about his latest deal, but to let me know that Owen passed away last night. I don't know how Darren knows that I knew Owen, but I was a little skeeved out by his attempt to be neighborly. I said I was sorry to hear that, and he said yeah, and then he started poking around in my garden, so I aggressively explained that I had a lot of work to do today, and probably so did he. He said he did, and eventually he left. That's a shame about Owen. Let's undo. Okay, we'll go back one turn, but I don't think you should use undo here. I think this kind of game should be played straight through, and any mistakes you make should be considered part of the story. All right, fine. Well said, Ryan. I guess we'll go ahead and go to the caves. I went down into the caves this afternoon. I found one likely looking round rock that I thought might be a geode, but when I cracked it open, there was just rock inside. Okay. Owen gone, as explained. Let's look. Let's try walking in town. I took another stroll around town today. This time I ran into the library, which I never paid much attention to before. It might be the oldest building in town. With the big stone steps out front and the columns, it looks like a real library, or maybe a courthouse, but it's so tiny. As I was walking up the steps, someone else was coming out. She was in a hurry, and I think she was trying very hard to avoid eye contact with me, but I'm pretty sure I know her from high school. I forget her name. She played the cello, I think. Definitely a library type, though. It turns out the library is a lot bigger on the inside. It has a basement, even. But maybe it seemed bigger because there was nobody else there. It was so quiet. I wandered through the stacks for a couple hours before I realized I didn't know what I was looking for. Then I found my way out and headed home. Wednesday, July 28th. Kind of cloudy. Took a little while to tend to the pumpkin plant. We should walk through the forest today. Today on my forest walk, I happened upon, almost fell into, a creek. I think it's a creek. It's too small to be a river, but too big to be a stream. I don't know what the rules are for these things. I will try to describe it in objective terms. Too wide to jump across, too deep to wade across. Actually, it was probably 50 feet wide. It could be a fun place to explore, and maybe there's a bridge across it somewhere. There was a sort of magical moment when I realized I was standing in a big patch of mushrooms. My mushroom book said that they were shingle caps, which didn't sound appetizing, but supposedly they're good eating. So I grabbed them and took them home. The guide also says they'll last up to a week if I store them right. So, I need to sell them before next Wednesday. Thursday, July 29th. Sunny. Darren came by to say he had a used fishing rod in the shop for $50. He left faster than he usually does, thank goodness. All of a sudden, there are pumpkins on the vine. Incredibly tiny pumpkins. I have $123. I can buy the fishing rod. I went into Darren's to buy that fishing rod. Once he knew what I was after, he rang it up, handed it over, and let me get out of there without any further comment. Eerie. But I have the whole rest of the day to do whatever I want. I have $73 to spend now. Let's try taking this to the river. River? Is that what I said? A creek? Let's explore creek. Well, that was a creepy hike. I found the creek again, and I figured I'd follow it upstream and see where it took me. It turns out that this creek is a winding, tortuous serpent of a creek, and I could have skipped a bunch of its switchbacks if the trees weren't so thick. Fortunately, it wasn't too long before I had to stop. I arrived at this place where the creek comes out of a culvert, but underneath a long chain-link fence. It's a big culvert, given that it's a pretty big creek, but they had bars built into the concrete so you couldn't crawl through, and the fence was covered in signs about how this was private property, so no trespassing, no ATVs, etc. This was kind of intimidating, but I was okay with just turning around and going home. Then I saw a kid on the other side of the fence. He was staring at me. And not staring in a normal creepy kid way. He looked like he was afraid of me, like someone had warned him about that side of the fence. I tried to give him a smile and a wave, but I gave up on it mid-gesture. I turned around and headed for home. I think I'll follow the creek downstream next time. Friday, July 30th. Partly cloudy. Took care of the pumpkin plant, first of all. Let's try walking in the old town before we go downstream. Ghost town. I thought I should give that creepy old village another look. I ran into Regan. She asked if I wanted to get that pizza. We had been talking about getting pizza earlier. So we got a pizza. I went to Angelina's pool hall, where I hadn't been since I was a kid. While we were enjoying that incredibly delicious, incredibly terrible pizza, I asked Regan if she wanted to shoot some pool. This turned out to be a mistake. Regan is very good at pool. So the game was over pretty fast, and then Regan did some trick shots. If I hadn't asked her to play, I wouldn't have looked like an idiot, and I would have gotten to see more trick shots. Eventually, we realized it was getting late, so we went our separate ways. I'm exhausted. Sunny. Saturday, July 31st. Darren showed up again with a leaf. Guess what this is? It looked like basil. What is it? I asked. Guess. I asked if it was basil, and he was disappointed. This was his super fun way of letting me know he had basil plants for sale at the shop. $15. I hope he learned his lesson about guessing games. Okay, we're going to buy that basil. I went in to buy one of Darren's basil plants. Darren gave me a crash course in pruning the basil so that it would produce the most leaves, or the best leaves. I didn't really understand any of it. I guess I'll just prune it in the way that feels right to me, in my heart. My funds currently stand at $58. Sunday, August 1st. Cloudy. Watered the basil plant and the pumpkin plant. Made sure everything is happy back there. Let's see if we can get a fish. Or should we do something else first? Let's give the mine one last try. The caves. Did a little spelunking since I had time. I reached a new low in the caves today, but that's a good thing. As I waved my flashlight beam to and fro across this undiscovered cavern, I noticed something glinting on the floor. It was a big, fancy hunting knife. Not a real hunting knife, but one of those ridiculous cartoon knives with all the notches and serrations and what might be a bottle opener built into the handle. A very utilitarian knife, if the utility you have in mind is impressing your fellow suburban teens. It's in okay condition. It couldn't have been lost in the cave for more than a couple years, I think. I'll try to wash it up without filleting myself. Missed our window on the shingle caps. Monday, August 2nd. Sunny. Took care of the basil plant and the pumpkin plant, first of all. I followed all the instructions in the book, but the shingle caps went bad anyway. They basically turned into goo, so I had to clean that up. Let's go downstream. Explore Creek. I followed the creek downstream today and had much better results than when I went upstream. There's a lake down there. I discovered a lake. Actually, I detected a few signs of previous human presence, like a fire pit and some old beer bottles. It's not exactly a campground, though. I don't think Essen has the money to develop something like that. So I guess I have the lake all to myself the next time I feel like heading down there. Tuesday, August 3rd. Very sunny. Darren came by bright and early to let me know he has a guitar for sale, just $90. I played the guitar for a little while in college, didn't get very far with it. I trimmed the basil a little. I have no idea what I'm doing with this plant. Let's examine the lake. I was able to find my lake on a map, and I realized it has already been officially discovered, and it has a name, which I forgot, and I don't feel nearly as special now. But it's a pretty nice little lake regardless. The creek? The creek I found is actually pretty impressive. I don't know why I'd never heard of it. Maybe I just wasn't paying attention. And I know there are fish in that creek, but I don't know if it's the best fishing spot in the world. I don't know anything about any of this. Let's examine the library. So far as I can tell, nobody really works at the library. I haven't seen any librarians. You're supposed to check out books yourself on the honor system. There's a detector thingy at the door, but I don't know if it even works. There must be someone in there taking care of things, though. Let's try examining the festival grounds once more. They're empty. Old village. From what Regan told me, the ghost town isn't the direct predecessor of Essen. I mean that Essen came into being after the old village had already been abandoned, or whatever happened to it. Let's try... Should we paint something? Let's try painting the lake. I thought I'd try to paint the lake. So I went out with a folding chair and a little tray, and I found a good place to sit, and I sat down and did a painting. The important thing is, I learned a lot about painting. I should consider the paper and paints that I used up as investments in my personal creative growth, because the painting itself did not turn out very good. Fun way to spend an afternoon, though. Wednesday, August 4th, sunny. Had to fix things up a little out back and make sure the basil plant and the pumpkin plant were all growing up nicely. Let's try... painting the old village. Wednesday, August 4th, sunny. Okay. I decided to paint the old village. I set myself up in a spot with a good view, and I carefully observed the old village, and I recorded my impressions in the medium of watercolor. And it turned out okay, I think. Yeah, okay is exactly the right word. Thursday, August 5th, sunny. Darren showed up again. Now he has a sofa for sale. Free delivery. I know you're rolling the delivery costs into the $165, Darren. Let's try exploring town. Or should we go to one of the places? Let's try going to the bakery. Go to bakery. Took a walk into town to visit Joan's bakery. Joan was inexpressibly happy to see me, and she had me try a boysenberry scone. It was amazing. Friday, August 6th. Very sunny. Took a little while to tend to the basil plant and the pumpkin plant. I decided that there were enough basil leaves for me to snip them off and put them in a little basket. I don't know if I'm doing this right, but at least now I don't have to think about it anymore. Let's examine the basket of basil. The basil still looks fine. Well, clearly we need to go to the market. Should I try to sell the basket of basil? Yes. Should I try to sell the okay painting of the old village? No, I think we want to take that to the gallery. The terrible painting of the lake? Yes. The ridiculous knife? Absolutely. Wooden box? No. Yes. Wish me luck. Here's what happened. The basil sold for $28, and I have no idea whether that's good or fair or what. Someone actually bought that painting of the lake for $8. She asked me if my kid painted it. I didn't say no. The weirdest thing happened with that ridiculous knife. A grizzled old-timer bought it for $36. He really seemed like he knew what he was about. So maybe I don't know anything about knives? I made $72, so now I have $130. What a long day. Saturday, August 7th, sunny. Spent the first part of my day tending to the pumpkin plant. The pumpkins are coming along okay, but they still look like miniature pumpkins for a dollhouse. Okay. Fair enough. I examined the pumpkins. I feel like I might be able to sell those pumpkins soon, relatively speaking. Let's examine the store. He has the sofa for $165 and a guitar for $90. Let's try going to the forest. Took a long walk through the forest, and as I was heading back, I found a bunch of mint plants not far from the cabin. I never learned how to harvest mint, but I took an educated guess and filled up a basket with leaves. It smells amazing. Sunday, August 8th, partly cloudy. Darren came by to say he has bird poison at the shop now, $35 a bag, to kill those pesky birds. We haven't experienced any consequences for the birds, so I'm not going to buy the bird poison, I don't think. We can regret this later. Let's go to the lake. Or should we paint something again, since we don't know how long this mint will last? Let's... Should we try painting Darren? Wouldn't that be an awful prospect? uh... Yeah, now that it's occurred to me, I want to try it. I think the person on this planet whom I would enjoy painting the least is probably Darren. Okay. Can we paint Joan? I think it would be fun to paint Joan, but I don't know her well enough to ask her to pose for me. Okay, fair enough. Let's, I really want to sell this mint. Can I try fishing? I think I want to go fishing today, but I'm not sure if I should go to the creek or the lake. Let's fish at the creek. Took a little walk over by the creek this afternoon. I went down the creek until I found a likely-looking spot, and I cast my line and I sat down a while. I caught a big, angry catfish. Sorry, pal. Some lucky tourist is going to eat you. Monday, August 9th. Sunny. Took a little while to tend to the pumpkin plant. Let's go to market. I'm going to the market today. I just have to decide what I'm bringing first. Should I try to sell the catfish? Yes. Should I try to sell the basket of mint leaves? Yes. The okay painting of the old village? No. The wooden box? No. Yes. Back diary. Here's what happened. I sold the basket of mint for $15. The person I sold it to gave me some tips on how to cut mint leaves correctly. If you're so smart, why aren't you out there cutting your own mint? Some hungry tourists took the catfish off my hands for $26. That's how hungry they were. I made $41, so now I have $171. I guess that was worth it. Tuesday, August 10th, very sunny. Took care of the pumpkin plant first of all. There is so much stuff you can do in this game. Let's look first and consider. Let's examine the box. It's a halfway unassuming box. It has a very simple cherrywood inlay around the top, and it has a keyhole. Should we try painting something? Can we paint our friend Regan? I asked Regan if I could paint her. She said, "Are you kidding? Absolutely, I want you to paint me." So we found a good place, and I had her sit down, and I painted her. I lost track of time. I got into kind of a groove, I think. I wasn't really thinking about whether I was doing a good job until after I realized I was done. And I think I did a pretty good job. It's actually a fairly competent, arguably nice-looking depiction of Regan. The awful part is I used up the last of the paints, so I guess my artistic career is over until Darren finds another watercolor set to sell me. Wednesday, August 11th, kind of cloudy. Spent the first part of my day tending to the pumpkin plant. I wonder if we can give the painting to Regan. She would appreciate it. Pretty good. I think I might have really done a good job with my painting of Regan. I feel like I managed to convey the essential uniqueness of Regan, sort of. Maybe. Give pretty good painting to Regan. I went to the caves because I thought I'd find Regan there. I gave her the pretty good painting of Regan. She seemed to like it. I found a fossil. I cracked a likely-looking rock open and revealed this amazing spiral shape, an ammonite, or something along those lines. It's gorgeous. I'm being incredibly careful with it. Thursday, August 12th. Sunny. Took care of the pumpkin plant first of all. I saw Regan, and we chatted for a bit. We were just jawing about nothing at first, but then I asked her how her research was going, and she got very serious. She said she understood something that she didn't understand when she first started investigating the old village. And then I waited for her to explain what it was. She said, "The past is still here, and we need to respect it." She looked down for a while, and then she added, "Everything that we bury comes back up out of the earth eventually." I told her that sounded like a ghost story. And right away I thought, oh my gosh, what a stupid thing to say. But she nodded, very slowly, and she said it was a lot like that. Then she changed the subject, and eventually she touched my arm and said it was really great having me back in a liaison. But it's the ghost thing that I've been thinking about all day. Oh, creepy. Since it's so creepy, I kind of think we should check out the festival grounds. But maybe first we should buy a piece of furniture since we haven't really done much of that. He doesn't have the rocking chair anymore, I guess. Can we buy the sofa? I let Darren sell me the sofa. He got really excited about this because it meant we had to load it into his truck together and drive it back to the cabin together and unload it together and get it situated in the living room together. And he got to talk the entire time. I have a headache. I have $6 now. Great. Sonny, Darren stopped by to let me know he has an antique magnifying glass at the shop for only $20. Well, now we need to resume our explorations. Let's go to festival grounds. I had another look at the festival grounds. I kept my nose to the ground as I circled the field, and I saw something half buried in the packed earth. I extracted it carefully, like a real archaeologist. I think it's a dagger. The edges aren't sharp, but the tip is very pointy. The whole thing is made of this very smooth black metal. It doesn't look that old, actually. Saturday, August 14th. Very sunny. Had to fix things up a little out back and make sure the pumpkin plant was growing up nicely. Let's try the caves once more. Explored the cave some more. I found a chunk of turquoise. Is that rare around here? I have no idea, but I'm almost positive that's what it is. It's not very pretty in its current shape, but a jeweler or somebody like that would know what to do with it. Sunday, August 15th, very sunny. Took a little while to tend to the pumpkin plant. Maybe we should go into town to see if we can find a jeweler. I went into town just to look around, and I saw the mayor again. I mean, Gareth. Fortunately, he wasn't able to pay too much attention to me. He was talking to a couple of tourists, and I came within earshot just as he started telling them that the woods weren't very good for hiking. Their time would be better spent here in town, shopping and eating. They tried to give him the brush off, but Gareth didn't take the hint, and he started trying to lead them down the street. So the one tourist guy got irate, and his friend told him to calm down, and he told his friend not to tell him to calm down, and I started walking faster so I wouldn't get yanked into any of this. You'd think that for as long as he's been the mayor, Gareth would know more about not scaring off tourists. Monday, August 16th, sunny. Took care of the pumpkin plant first of all. The pumpkins are a decent size now. I could sell them, or I could wait and let them grow bigger. I don't want to wait long to sell them, so let's go see if we can get a fish. Let's try, we fished in the creek last. Let's try fish at lake. I decided to spend my free time today over by the lake. I found a good spot for fishing at the lake, and I had the foresight to bring my fishing rod. So I sat there for a while, and my instincts that had been dormant for the past few years suddenly sprang into action. I caught a few bluegills. Hopefully I can sell them in the next couple of days. Tuesday, August 17th, sunny. I was reflecting for a moment on the beauty of nature when Darren started knocking extremely loudly on the door. He urgently needed to tell me about the bell pepper plants he's now selling for $24, and then he wouldn't leave for like half an hour. So that ruined my morning, but I won't let it ruin the rest of my day. Let's go ahead and go to market. Going to the market today, I just have to decide what I'm bringing first. Should I try to sell the bluegills? Yes. Should I try to sell the pumpkins? Yes. Should I try to sell the turquoise? I guess we may as well, since we didn't come up with a jeweler or anything. Should I try to sell the black dagger? Yeah, sure. Should I try to sell the ammonite fossil? Absolutely. The okay painting of the old village? No. Should I try to sell the wooden box? No. I'm just going to write it all down again to make sure. I'm taking the pumpkins, the bluegills, the ammonite fossil, the turquoise, the black dagger, right? Yes. Wish me luck. I'm back, diary. Here's what happened. I sold my mini pumpkins for $32. Everyone kept saying how cute they were. I sold those bluegills for $43. Not bad. The stupid ammonite fossil fell to pieces while I was putting it out for display. I should have realized I'm not a paleontologist. All that was left was kind of a spiral-shaped imprint in a big rock. Someone bought it for $10. I sold the turquoise for $24. I was kind of hoping for more there. I sold the creepy dagger for $22. The guy said, "What is this, some sort of garden tool?" And I said, "I guess," and that was good enough for him. I made $131, so now I have $137. What a long day. Wednesday, August 18th, sunny. I straightened things up in the plots out back. We're going to buy the bell pepper plants. I went down to Darren's to buy a bell pepper starter, and he explained in excruciating detail how to plant it just the right way so it doesn't rot or die, and I went home and I had no idea how to plant it because I wasn't paying attention to Darren. I feel like I have had an extremely long day. I have $113 to spend now. Let's buy a magnifying glass. Darren didn't have anything to say about the magnifying glass when I came in to buy it, but he had plenty to say about the incredibly fascinating general store business. I started digging my fingernails into my palm just to distract me from his blathering. Now my hand hurts. Now I have $93. Friday, August 20th, kind of cloudy. Spent the first part of my day tending to the bell pepper plant. Since we don't even know if he's going to get more stuff in, I guess we're going to cut our losses with this painting and take it to the gallery. I walked down to the gallery today. I ran into Lucia. Apparently Mackenzie is Lucia's mom. She didn't seem to recognize me at first, but then she told me about the observations she's been taking up on the mountain. Oh, that did not do much. Saturday, August 21st, cloudy. Had to fix things up a little out back and make sure the bell pepper plant was growing up nicely. Take OK painting to gallery. I don't think I need to take the OK painting of the old village to the gallery. Give OK painting to gallery. Nope, doesn't matter. Okay, let's check out the caves. Did a little spelunking since I had the time. Today my flashlight beam fell on a rusty old lantern. For a moment I contemplated how such a thing could end up abandoned in the bottom of a cave, but that line of thought just creeped me out, so I turned my attention elsewhere. I thought maybe I could restore it, or at least clean it up, so I took it home. It's definitely a lot cleaner now. I'm afraid if I get it to look any nicer, I won't be able to sell it as an antique. I guess we're not going to be using it. Sunday, August 22nd. Partly cloudy. Another announcement from Darren. The Unity celebration is Friday night, the 27th. He said the mayor was expecting to see me there. He seemed kind of put upon about it. I don't know why he would be, but I don't really remember what the Unity celebration is. Let's go to the old town. The old village. Took a trip to the old village today. I found something kind of cool, I guess. An old glass bottle. The glass is deep green, and it has the letters GB on it. And it's not chipped or anything. What does GB mean, though? I wonder. Monday, August 23rd. Sunny. Now Darren says he has baby carrots for $18. As in immature carrot plants, not carrots that have been whittled down to baby size. It might be fun to grow carrots. We're going to buy those carrots. Apparently $18 gets you a whole bunch of little plantable carrot plants. Darren knows all about the economics of this, and now I know all about it as well. His voice was going through my head the whole time I was planting them. I fear that I will retain this carrot knowledge for the rest of my life. My funds currently stand at $75. Tuesday, August 24th. Sunny. Took a little while to tend to the carrot plants and the bell pepper plant. The bell pepper flowers have birthed some actual fruit. Should we go into the forest today? My hike today took me through the forest. During my walk, I found a bunch of strange gray mushrooms, kind of greenish gray, and kind of withered looking. The mushroom guide said they were dry poppers, and they're supposedly pretty good, so I gathered up as many as I could. Wednesday, August 25th. Very sunny. Watered the carrot plants and the bell pepper plant. Made sure everything is happy back there. Let's examine the poppers. These dry poppers really look like zombie mushrooms, but Labont's Mushroom Guide says they're worth a decent amount of money. Let's not waste any time then. Let's go to market. I'm going to market today. I just have to decide what I'm bringing first. Should I try to sell the dry poppers? Yes. Can we undo? I guess we're going to go ahead and do it. Yes. Should I try to sell the green glass bottle? Yes. The old lantern? Yes. The magnifying glass? Might as well. Yes. The okay painting of the old village? Yes. The wooden box? Yes. Yep. Wish me luck. I'm back, diary. Here's what happened. I sold my painting of the old village for $16. Respectable. The girl who bought it showed it to her gentleman friend with a sort of get a load of this look, but I'll take it. I managed to sell the magnifying glass for $39. Not bad. I sold the dry poppers for $33 to a gentleman who said he'd never seen such ghastly things. I think he wouldn't have wanted them so bad if they weren't so expensive. Muscular lady bought the old lantern for $30, telling her friend it'd be a fun restoration project. I knew it was smart not to fix it up too much. I sold the box for $31. The mystery of it being locked and unopenable made it a very popular item. I'll never know what was in there, but I do have $31. Someone bought the green bottle for $10. She said the GB probably stood for General Beverage, a distillery that used to operate on the other side of the state 100 or so years ago. Then she said she was just making that up. What the heck, lady? I made $159, so now I have $234. Exhausting. Thursday, August 26th. Sunny. Took care of the carrot plants and the bell pepper plant first of all. As is our usual tradition, we're going to go to the caves first. Explored the cave some more. I came across a fossil. A weird worm plant thing. A crinoid. Just one of those things you pick up in the classes outside your major you have to take before they let you graduate. With my pickaxe and various other tools, I was able to extract it perfectly. Friday, August 27th. Sunny. Tonight is the Unity celebration. I'll get as much done as I can today, and then I'll clean myself, and then I'll go into town. So what am I doing today? Let's look. Should we visit someone or go to the library, perhaps? Let's go to the library. Ended up checking out the library. I saw a title on one of the shelves that made me pull it down. Nice little things. I took it home. Heading out to the Unity celebration now. I guess I was expecting something else. Someone directed me to the Rotary Hall basement. The mayor sat at the middle of one long table, surrounded by a bunch of older folks from around town. One smaller table had 3 girls sitting around it, Regan, Lucia, and someone else. The other table was just me and Darren. Luckily, he wasn't in a talkative mood. The room was very quiet, except for some muttering at the grown-ups table. And then the mayor stood up, and everyone else went quiet. He welcomed us to the Unity celebration and said that he and the town elders had considered these decisions very, very carefully. Then he asked me to stand up. He told me that I was an asset to the community and all the elders were expecting great things from me. And then he asked Regan to stand up. He told her that I would need her support and guidance and that my goals were now her goals and her goals were my goals and my contributions to the town were her contributions. He had us approach the table of elders, and someone gave us a pair of rings. He instructed us to put the rings on each other's fingers, and then he said it was his honor to pronounce us man and wife. He told me I could kiss my bride, and I got the impression that this wasn't really optional. So I kissed Regan as respectfully as I could manage. I couldn't really tell what her reaction was. Then we were ushered into a small, dark room. The only light was a couple of candles burning on the table set for 4, with those little meal revealer bells over the plates. Regan and I sat down and talked very quietly about whether we were supposed to start eating. Pretty soon the other happy couple came in. Darren and that girl I saw at the library, whose name I still don't know. They sat down, and we uncovered our plates, and the 4 of us enjoyed the most awkward steak dinner of our lives. Well, that's creepy. Saturday, August 28th. Sunny. Regan came home with me last night. I don't know if that was obvious. We didn't really talk until this morning, though. She said that we needed to pool our finances, and to that end she handed me $100. So now, together, we have $334. After that, we mostly talked about the logistics of getting her stuff moved into the cabin. I don't know what Regan is up to today. I believe I am noticing some growth from those carrots. Talk to Regan. Took a walk into town to visit Joan's bakery. I saw Regan working there. I didn't know Joan was Regan's mom. We just kind of hung out for a while. Sunday, August 29th. Very sunny. Another early morning visit from Darren. He wanted to hand deliver a flyer for the Starlight Festival, which is Wednesday night, the 1st of September. I got the strong impression that I'm obligated to go. Regan took off before I'd completely woken up. Let's go to the caves now that we have this. We went to the caves relatively recently. Let's go read our book. Nice little things. Let's examine our nice little things. I gave Nice Little Things a quick leaf through. It's about talking flowers, I think. I'm wondering if I should actually read it. Maybe not. Let's walk in the forest. Please answer yes or no. No. I don't really have that kind of time, though. Walk in forest. Took a long walk through the forest. While I was walking, I happened upon a patch of shrubs covered in red berries. Currants. I'm not very confident about identifying plants, but I know a currant when I see one. I picked as many as I could and brought them home. Monday, August 30th. Sunny. Spent the first part of my day tending to the carrot plants and the bell pepper plant. The peppers are now big and green, but they're supposed to be yellow. I think that's what Darren said. I'll wait longer. Maybe we should go to the Old Town? Trying to time this out properly. I keep calling it the Old Town, but it's the Ghost Town. I followed the trail to the old village today and had another look around. I hung out with Regan for a while. I went down one of the creepy alleys and I happened upon a patch of wildflowers. Feral flowers, I guess. Big orange tiger lilies. They must have been planted by someone who lived in the old village, and they've been surviving as an invasive species all these years. So maybe I was doing nature a favor when I snipped them up and brought them home. Tuesday, August 31st. Sunny. Darren showed up with another leaf. Guess what this is? I had no idea. He still made me guess a couple times before he would tell me it was kale. He has kale plants for sale at $24 each. The kale fad was in full swing while I was at college, but I don't know how things stand on this side of the country right at this moment. Regan made me breakfast this morning, which was nice. Okay, almost ready to go to market. I want to go fishing first, though. Let's fish at the lake again? Or should we alternate our fishing? Let's fish at the stream. At the creek. I can't spell creek. Fish at creek. I headed over to the creek today. I saw Mackenzie walking around dreamily as if her feet weren't touching the ground. She kind of cornered me and told me that the atmosphere has been charged with possibilities lately. I saw some mushrooms near the creek. Tiny little guys, like an army of fairy folk. My book said they were Thropogenesis, which is a terrifying name, but they're so tasty. I ate a couple, and then I picked the rest and took them home. I guess I didn't fish? Wednesday, September 1st. Very sunny. I just remembered tonight is a Starlight Festival. I don't even know what it is. I guess I'll worry about it tonight. Regan took off before I'd completely woken up. Let's go ahead and go to the market. I'm going to the market today. I just have to decide what I'm bringing first. Should I try to sell the Thropogenesis? Yes. Should I try to sell the tiger lilies? Yes. Should I try to sell the basket of currants? Yes. Should I try to sell the crinoid fossil? Yes. Yes. Wish me luck. I'm back, diary. Here's what happened. I sold the currants I picked for $10, which was a little disappointing. I guess they're not the tastiest berries you can get. I sold the Thropogenesis for $25. I could probably have gotten more if I could stop myself from snacking on them. I eventually sold the crinoid fossil for $38. Barely anyone knew what a crinoid was. We need more college-educated tourists around here. Someone asked whether I grew the tiger lilies myself, and I explained that I found them in the old village.
The ladies seemed to disapprove, but someone else came over and bought them for $27. I made $100, so now I have $434. I guess that was worth it. And now I have to go to that Starlight Festival. The flyer gave some very convoluted directions to this field way outside of town. Now that I think of it, it must have been the festival grounds Regan told me about. I didn't recognize it in the dark. I was the last one to arrive, even though I got there a little earlier than the time on the flyer. Regan was waiting for me, wearing this long blue dress. She looked gorgeous, but when I caught her eye, she was so serious. She came up to me and held my hands. She tried to whisper something to me, some sort of advice, but I couldn't hear her well enough to understand. Then there were people next to us. They put a crown on Regan's head and a crown on my head. The crowns were glowing, flickering. I guess there were a bunch of LEDs on them, programmed to fade in and out like fireflies. They couldn't have been real fireflies. Regan led me out through the field, the king and queen of lightning bugs. I heard all the people behind us start humming, crooning softly. I don't know if they were singing any words. The moon was full, and our crowns made us easy to spot. All those eyes on us. We got to the edge of the field, and then we kept going into the woods until we were out of sight. Regan told me we had to stay hidden for a while, and then we could go home. Thursday, September 2nd. Sunny. Darren stopped by. He's selling a cactus. How exotic. $19. Sometimes I wish my cabin was 10 or 50 miles farther from the town. Regan and I went out to breakfast, but she took off pretty fast after that. Let's examine the store. He's got a cactus for $19 and a kale plant for $24. Let's buy the kale. I let Darren sell me a kale plant. During the time-wasting portion of the transaction, he told me he had learned that kale isn't actually that good for you. It's only as good for you as spinach, which I thought was pretty good for you, but I kept my mouth shut. Just don't ask why Darren was telling me this in the middle of selling me the kale. I'm getting another headache. Now I have $410 to spend. Friday, September 3rd, partly cloudy. Spent the whole morning attending to everything out back. The carrots are definitely getting bigger. Those peppers have gotten really yellow and firm and nice, so I picked a bunch of them and put them in a crate to take to the market. Of course, they're all weird shapes, so they don't fit into the crate very elegantly. Should we go fish at the lake? Fish at lake. I spent the afternoon over by the lake. I did some fishing at the lake. There are some huge dragonflies out there, and they're not scared of people. They got to be a little annoying. I guess I'm the one trespassing on their lake, though. I caught a few bullheads. Not big ones, but whatever. Saturday, September 4th. Kind of cloudy. Darren's latest intrusive announcement is that he has blueberry starters for sale at $20 a pop. I love blueberries, but I also love privacy. And specifically, I love mornings when Darren doesn't show up. I don't know what Regan is up to today. Okay. Well, let's buy the blueberries. I went to the general store and let Darren blather at me for a while so I could get a blueberry plant. Then I went home and planted it. The plant itself doesn't look like it would be worth all the trouble I went through, but pretty soon it'll be heavy with delicious blueberries. I have $390 to spend now. Took some time to water everything. Okay, let's go to market and sell the bullheads and the bell peppers. Yes. I'm back, diary. Here's what happened. Everyone was impressed with my bright yellow bell peppers. I sold them for $75. I sold bullheads for $13, which wasn't as much as I was hoping. I made $88, so now I have $478. I'm worn out. Monday, September 6th, cloudy. Darren came out to the cabin just to say that he has a mug for sale. He is charging $6 for this one-of-a-kind mug. I have no idea what's going on with the kale. It looks the same as when I planted it. Should I buy the mug? It turns out I really like the sofa. It's more comfortable in my bed. I hate that I love this sofa so much. Okay. Well, let's go to the caves. Did a little splunking since I had time. I did some actual mining today. I picked out a chunk of native copper, a palpable nugget. I don't want a mining operation to get started underneath Mount Vespasian, though, so if anyone asks, I'll say I found it in the next town over. Tuesday, September 7th. Sunny. Darren came by to say there's a crib for sale at his shop. Thought you might be interested, he said, even more needlessly cheery than usual. Regan made me breakfast this morning, which was nice. I picked those carrots. They look very rustic. The tourists are going to eat them up. Am I going to need a crib soon? That's odd. Okay, we picked carrots. We've got the stuff we just mined. Should we go walk through the forest and then go fishing? Let's walk the forest. I went on a hike in the forest this afternoon. The mushroom guide came in handy today. I found some bright yellow guys called muscaratum. Apparently they're only deadly if you prepare them wrong, so I'll have to pass that along to whoever I sell them to. Wednesday, September 8th. Partly cloudy. Took a little while to tend to the blueberry plant and the kale plant. Regan took off before I'd completely woken up. The blueberry plant is coming along just fine. Just fine. I can't stop thinking about it. Let's fish at the creek. I went for a walk along the creek. I did some fishing and I caught a perch. Very tasty fish if you know what to do with them. Thursday, September 9th. Sunny. Darren swung by to deliver our masks. For the mask. There's a mask, a party, I guess, the night of Monday the 13th. And we're expected to be there, of course. Regan's mask is clearly a butterfly. We couldn't figure out what mine is supposed to be. Maybe a bat? They both creep Regan out, so she's hidden them somewhere out of sight. Until Monday. Let's go to the market. I'm going to the market today. I just have to decide what I'm bringing first. Should I try to sell the perch? Yes. Should I sell the muscaratum mushrooms? Yes. The basket of carrots? Yes. The copper nugget? Yes. That's it. Wish me luck. I'm back, diary. Here's what happened. I carefully didn't wash those carrots too much, and I made sure some of the wonkier-looking carrots were near the top of the basket. And it worked. They looked so rustic, I managed to sell them for $44. I sold the muscaratum mushrooms for $26. I told the couple very specifically how they had to be careful about eating them. I even had a copy of the page from Labont's mushroom guide to hand them along with the container. They said they knew what they were doing. They seemed kind of peeved by me trying to be so helpful. I sold the perch for $15 and gave the guy some tips on how to cook it. I got lucky with the copper nugget. I was explaining the idea of native copper to someone who definitely wasn't going to buy it, and someone with more money to throw around overheard. They bought it for $47. I made $132, so now I have $610. What a long day. Friday, September 10th. Kind of cloudy. Darren's latest acquisition that he needed me to know about as early in the morning as possible is a used treadmill he's selling for $95. Why does he think I'd get any use out of a treadmill? I do almost nothing but walking. I ended up chopping off a bunch of kale leaves and putting them in a basket to sell. The basket looks cute, at least. Let's examine the store. He's getting a backlog of items. Treadmill for $95, a crib for $95, a mug for $6, and a cactus for $19. I didn't know Regan believed in ghosts, or I'm still not sure if she believes in ghosts. Do I believe in ghosts? I feel like buying the crib is announcing our intention to have a child, which is kind of creepy for a relationship we were forced into by the town. Similarly, I don't know how much the treadmill is communicate. Like, Regan seems like a relatively fit person. Like, she was muscular and walks around a lot, but since she walks around so much, I don't know how much the treadmill is really going to appeal to her. Let's just buy the cactus. I bought that cactus from Darren. Of course, he had 90 different things he wanted to talk about while I was around, but I got out of there eventually. On my way home, I realized that this cactus is fake. It's a plastic cactus. Did Darren assume I knew that, or did he not figure it out himself? Well, I'm not about to go back and ask him. Now I have $591. Saturday, September 11th. Sunny. Spent the first part of my day tending to the blueberry plant. Regan took off before I'd completely woken up. Should we go talk with Regan? Took a walk into town to visit Joan's Bakery. I talked to Regan. She said she had something to tell me, but she didn't want to talk there. She asked if we could go back to the cabin, and she seemed pretty worried, so I didn't argue. When we got back to the cabin, she put her arms around me and started sort of half crying. She said, "I just want you to be safe." She said that more than once. It didn't seem like a strange thing to say while she was clinging to me. I calmed her down a little, and I made her some tea, and then I calmed her down some more, and then... well, she's asleep now. Sunday, September 12th. Partly cloudy. Had to fix things up a little out back and make sure the blueberry plant was growing up nicely. The blueberries seem like they're slower than they should be. Did Darren sell me a bad batch? Let's look. We haven't considered some of our possibilities in a while. Let's walk in the mountain for a change. Oh, we can still walk to Owen's cabin. That's odd. I went over to Owen's cabin. It was empty. I think someone must have cleaned it out for him. It felt too creepy for me to want to hang around very long, so I headed back to my own cabin pretty quick. I still have plenty of time to do something else this afternoon. Let's go to the mountain. I took another stab at the mountain. I thought I'd try going around the southwest side, since I know the northeast trail takes you to the old village. I found something. I thought it was a campsite at first, but there wasn't really space for tents or campers. It was just a picnic table in the shadow of a big tree. There was a blue tablecloth on the table, and there were platters with all kinds of food, pastries and casseroles and a meat tray, a loaf of bread, a big bowl of fruit salad. I don't know how I didn't see the flies right away, but there were so many flies, and I don't know what kind of bugs swarming all over the food and buzzing so loud, so loud. I realized the table must have been laid out like that for at least a week. How did I not hear the buzzing? Did I think it was a helicopter? I turned around and I got out of there. I went straight home. I'm still kind of rattled. Darren came by this evening with his truck, and Regan in the passenger seat of his truck, and that crib in the back of his truck. Regan said she thought it was smart to get such a nice crib right away, before someone snatched it up, and Darren said he thought it was smart too. And she said Darren was kind enough to deliver it and her to our cabin. We set it up in the living room. I see. Monday, September 13th. Cloudy. Good old Darren came by to pound on the door and then ramble for a while about how he found a pan flute. Kind, helpful Darren explained that a pan flute is the type of flute that is composed of several pipes that you blow over, like you do with glass bottles. But these pipes are made from bamboo, Darren went on to say. I wanted to throttle that man. If I want these pan pipes, I can buy them for $16. Regan and I rearranged some furniture this morning. Okay, why not buy some pan pipes? I popped into the general store and bought the pan flute. The whimsical spirit of the satyr was upon me, and I let Darren blither about this and that without paying any attention. Then I took the flute home and tried playing it a little bit. I have no idea what I'm doing, but I love how it sounds. Relaxing. I'm taking the rest of the day off. I have $575 now. Tuesday, September 14th. Kind of cloudy. I guess the mask is tonight, but I don't know where Regan put our masks. Hopefully she still remembers. But I don't have to worry about that until tonight. Regan took off before I'd completely woken up. Let's go to the caves. Went on a little excursion into those creepy caves. I saw Regan. We had a nice normal conversation, but there was a subtext to it. We share a secret now, although I'm still not sure what that secret is. Didn't find anything interesting to take home today. It's getting dark out. Regan produced our masks and we got dressed. We're supposed to all wear all black, and now we're headed out to the mask. They held the mask out on the streets in the middle of town. They turned off a bunch of the streetlights. Things were already in full swing when we got there. People were dashing in and out of the darkness in their masks, chasing each other, spying on each other. It felt like a game, like capture the flag, but nobody told us any rules. Regan and I got separated quickly. I ended up inching my way down an alley, trying not to get caught. I don't know who was supposed to catch me. A guy in a lizard mask popped out from behind a trash can and started striding in my direction. I thought he was going to grab me, but he just leaned down and put his finger to his lips. He didn't make a sound, and then he strode away. After that, I was so scared I just gave up. I leaned on the brick wall and tried to get my heart to slow down, but pretty soon Regan showed up in her butterfly mask. She pushed me against the wall and started kissing me. Then she disappeared. Eventually, the lights came back on. I guess it was around midnight. I headed back to the car and met back up with Regan. We drove home and she went straight to bed. I couldn't get up the nerve to ask if it was really her in the alley. Wednesday, September 15th. Cloudy. Took a little while to tend to the blueberry plant. Let's walk. Let's talk to someone, I suppose. We haven't done that in a while. Was Mackenzie the mother of Regan? No, I don't think that's right. I think Joan is Lucia's mom, I think. Talk to Mackenzie. I guess not. The bakery? Took a walk into town to visit Joan's bakery. I had an interesting conversation with Joan. She said she was interested in leveraging my expertise, which she eventually revealed to me that she was willing to buy any of the fruits or veggies I grew out at the cabin or found while rambling around. She said in particular that she was getting interested in mushroom recipes, but she didn't have the know-how to find the mushrooms herself. I said I wasn't much of an expert either, and she said, "Oh, don't be so modest," like she'd heard somewhere that I was actually a mushroom genius. Anyway, I can sell her a bunch of mushrooms or a basket of berries any time, except she's not at the bakery on weekends. So anytime Monday through Friday. Thursday, September 16th. Cloudy. Had to fix things up a little out back and make sure the blueberry plant was growing up nicely. Regan took off before I had completely woken up. Let's try walking in the woods. My hike today took me through the forest. I found some mushrooms out in the woods. They looked like rocks at first, but I gave them a closer look. Then I got out Labont's mushroom guide. It said they were actually kobold toes, which is both a cute and disturbing name, but the guide says they're tasty, so I plucked a bunch of toes and lugged them home. Friday, September 17th. Cloudy. Darren knocked on my door again with an important announcement. He's got a big crate of glue. Really fancy glue. There was some sort of mistake, so he can sell it at rock-bottom prices, $10. The worst part is, he explained the mix-up in so much detail with such verve that I remember every detail of the whole stupid story. I could write it all down right now, but that would just etch it deeper into my poor, poor brain. Regan made me breakfast this morning, which was nice. Finally, the blueberries were ready to pick. I picked so many blueberries. I ate so many blueberries. My hands are all purple. Let's try selling our blueberries and our kobold toes at the bakery. That did not do what I thought it would. Let's undo that. I know. We're supposed to embrace our mistakes, but I want to sell. I can sell her a bunch of mushrooms or a basket of berries at any time. Sell mushrooms to Joan. Kobold toes. I thought the kobold toes might be the kind of thing Joan is looking for. I took it over to the bakery, and she said yes, she would be very interested. She bought it from me for $31. So now I have $606. Okay, so you can sell it for a greater rate, but you can only sell one thing. Good to know. So I would rather sell multiple things at once. Took a little stroll through the plots out back of the cabin. Nothing going on over there. Let's examine the store. Let's buy the glue. I caved in and bought some of Darren's glue. He said I wouldn't regret it, and then he gave me a dozen examples of uses he'd found for the glue or that other customers had found. Then he started explaining everything he knew about the chemistry involved, so I already regret it. Now I have $596 to spend. Sunday, September 19th. Looks like it might rain. Straighten things up in the plots out back. Regan and I went out to breakfast, but she took off pretty fast after that. Let's see if we can go fishing at the creek before our market trip. I headed over to the creek today. I caught a big green largemouth bass today. It's huge, but I know they're not especially delicious. Maybe I can sell it just on the basis of its size, quantity over quality. Monday, September 20th. Kind of cloudy. Darren says he's selling a lamp now. He comes to my house just to tell me about a lamp. $44 for this lovely lamp, he says. Okay, Darren. We're going to go to the market and sell the largemouth bass and the basket of blueberries and the basket of kale. I'm just going to write it all down again to make sure. I'm taking the basket of blueberries, the basket of kale, largemouth bass, right? Yes. Wish me luck. I'm back, diary. Here's what happened. I sold the blueberries for $55. That's satisfying. And also, I ate a lot of the blueberries I didn't sell, which was even more satisfying. The kale was not popular. I ended up selling it for $8. Whoops. The bass went for $26 to a family that didn't know any better. I made $89, so now I have $685. Exhausting. The store has a lamp for $44 and a treadmill for $95. Maybe if we're going to have a kid, the treadmill will be useful. So let's buy the treadmill. I'm so stupid. I went to Darren's stupid shop and bought that stupid treadmill, and I spent the whole day getting it into the cabin and setting it up, and now my head hurts and I'm too tired to do any walking on a treadmill. And why do I need a treadmill? I am in good shape. I walk all the time. Who is making these decisions for me? You're going to use the treadmill after you have a baby. Wednesday, September 22nd. Partly cloudy. Straighten things up in the plots out back. Regan made me breakfast this morning, which was nice. Let's buy the lamp. I bought that lamp from Darren. He offered to drive it home for me. I said no, I could get it myself, but it was too tall and I couldn't, so Darren helped me out and I looked like an idiot. I'm taking the rest of the day off. I have $546 to spend now. Thursday, September 23rd. Kind of cloudy. Took a little stroll through the plots out back of the cabin. Nothing going on over there. Regan took off before I'd completely woken up. We're going to the caves. Explored the cave some more. I found one likely-looking round rock that I thought might be a geode, but when I cracked it open, there was just rock inside. Friday, September 24th. Partly cloudy. Another important announcement from Darren. The Harvest Festival is October 1st. It's another thing that I only sort of remember from when I was a kid. I think it was mostly an adult thing. Whatever it is, Regan is not excited about it. This really is creepy Animal Crossing, it seems like. Let's, look. Let's look. Let's walk in the old village. Took a trip to the old village today. I saw Regan. It was the highlight of my day. I went into a creepy old barn on the edge of the village, and I found a bunch of mushrooms growing out of the dead gray earth. Very poetic. Also, there were bats in there. My mushroom guide identified them as white sleepers, which naturally made me think they were incredibly deadly. But they're fine. I took them home. Saturday, September 25th. Looks like it might rain. Straighten things up in the plots out back. Fish at lake. I decided to spend my free time today over by the lake. A little ways off from the lake, I found some mushrooms. According to Lamont's guide, they're called doorknobs. Cute. I picked a goodly amount of them and took them home. Sunday, September 26th. Cloudy. I did a little bit of weeding out back. Reg and I went out to breakfast, but she took off pretty fast after that. Okay. We are getting closer to being ready to go to market, but let's go walk in the forest first. Decided to wander around the forest for a while. I went deeper into the woods than usual, and I turned around a tree to see a tiny person sitting leaned against the trunk. I jumped, and possibly I yelped a little bit. But it was actually a doll. She has yarn hair, button eyes, a patchwork dress, and she's smiling, so I guess she didn't mind being abandoned in the woods. Yeah, I brought her home, not sure why. If I were the kind of person to play music during our sessions together, I would take this opportunity to play Jonathan Colton's Creepy Doll, which is a great song about a creepy doll. But you can do that on your own time. I'm going to continue playing. Monday, September 27th. Cloudy. Not much to do in the garden this morning because there's nothing for sale. Okay, we're going to do one last fishing trip before our market trip. So, fish at creek. Hiked over to the creek, had a look around. I found something washed up on the side of the creek like the victim of a shipwreck. A porcelain teacup. Probably a hummingbird was riding it down the creek when a storm hit. It's in very good condition, though, now that I've washed it off some. It's only chipped a teeny bit. Tuesday, September 28th. Looks like it might rain. Darren came by with another big opportunity. A bookcase, $98. Regan and I went out to breakfast, but she took off pretty fast after that. Let's go to market. Should I try to sell the teacup? Yes. The old doll? Yes. The doorknob mushrooms? Yes. The white sleepers? Yes. That's all correct. Here we go. I'm back, diary. Here's what happened. I managed to sell the old doll for $5 to a little kid. Her parents didn't want her to take the creepy thing home with them, but she said it was her own money. An antique collector bought that teacup for $10. Some people will buy anything if it's old enough, or cute enough, or pitiful enough, or cheap enough. I sold the doorknob mushrooms to a lady who seemed to be mostly tickled by the goofy name. I don't know if she even plans on eating them. She might just be taking them home as a conversation piece. But she paid $30, so. The white sleepers went for $41 after a bit of an argument. I didn't realize white sleepers were such high-demand mushrooms. I made $86, so now I have $632. I'm worn out. Wednesday, September 29th. Cloudy. Straightened things up in the plots out back. Regan and I went out for breakfast, but she took off pretty fast after that. I wonder, can we save this game? This game auto-saves your progress, the broad strokes anyway, so there's no need to save the game manually. And in fact, you are not allowed to save the game manually at all. I want to play right up until September 31st, and then I want to call it, because I know there's something a little bit more than just this game, and I think I want to save that because I got started too late. So let's see what our last couple days have for us, and then we'll call it there for the evening. Let's look. We haven't tried talking with many people. Let's go to... Should we walk in town? Because we haven't in a while. Today I went rambling through the downtown area. I saw Mayor Gareth hanging around. Didn't say much of anything to him. I wandered into an alley and found a rusty saw. It was hideous. So I took it home with me and spent a couple hours cleaning it up. I figured someone might be in the market for a partially restored saw. Thursday, September 30th. Looks like it might rain. Right, 30 days hath September, so this is going to be our last day. Got up early and got all my chores out of the way. The Harvest Festival is supposed to take up the whole day tomorrow, so I want to get as much done as I can today. But instead, we're going to call it there, and I will do this one more time. Thank you so much for joining me on our adventure through Singing for Me, and let's look forward to the next time. Have a good day.